What's going on, No Bad Dog Army? Hope you guys are well. Today's episode is brought to you by my friends over at We Feed Raw. If you guys want a really fresh, convenient way to feed your dog a low-process diet and delivered straight to your door, my friends at We Feed Raw will help you out with that. And right now, my listeners and my watchers on YouTube or on Spotify, you guys can save $50 off your first order by clicking the link in the description. Let's get into the podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about something really important for dog owners to understand and have context about, and that's going to be the difference between a working dog and a pet dog. I made a post the other day on my Instagram regarding my South African Mastiff, aka a Boerboel, also known as Burley. If you know him, you've seen him on my channel. He is a working dog. But I did a post and I said, hey, this is an awful pet. Do not get this dog for a pet. And I had 30,000 people like the post and said, yep, that's agreed. And then I had some people in the comments talking about how their Boerboel is the best dog ever and they are the best pet ever. And it made me think, this is a really good topic, excuse me, of discussion because, as a professional, and social media is weird, right? Because, excuse me, you go out and you post something and of course people who don't know you or don't have any context in which the dog you're talking about will just see that quick highlight, but that's social media. But it really gives me insight on how other people feel about different things, which is a lot of times I don't even look at the comments, but this particular post, I was interested to see people's opinion on the South African Mastiff and the opinions of others, which then led me down this road of having on as an actual Boerboel, let's say a Boerboel expert and a breeder that is coming on in the next couple weeks, which I'm excited about. But that's neither here or there right now. The idea, the whole premise behind a working dog and a pet, I should give context on, because I think that that's where a lot of people almost feel offended or they feel that it's untrue, and the context matters. So let's define that. A working dog is a particular dog and the genetics behind the dog that was raised and bred, or I should back up, bred and raised to work, right? So think about a Border Collie, think about a German Shepherd, think about a Malinois, thinking about a Boerboel, thinking about an Anatolian Shepherd, thinking about even Labradors and Golden Retrievers. Now, there's a huge spectrum in these breeds, which is very important for people to understand, because if I say I have a German Shepherd, and you could have a working line German Shepherd or you could have a pet German Shepherd. And so a pet is literally bred and raised to be a companion. They're bred to raise to be a family member. And being a professional dog owner and having a leash and a dog in my hand since I was 3 years old, I have a unique objective approach on dogs and understanding of dog behavior because I've made this my life's goal, right? God put me on this earth. I have one life and I've dedicated it to understand and study and research and work and train with dogs. That's it, right? So I've really dedicated my entire life to understand the ins and the outs of dogs, and I'm learning every day, and I'm so happy and grateful for that career. But I understand that there's other people who may take something from a professional dog trainer, not just me, and feel offended, emotional. And what I mean by that is I have a lot of friends who get working dogs. So again, the difference between that working dog and a pet dog, your pet dog is a dog that you go down to the shelter, or you get a dog to just hang out on the couch with your friends and your family and your kids and enjoy walks on the weekend, on your days off, and go to the beach for the week, whatever. This is a dog that's just an extension of your family. And that does not mean that the working dog that you get isn't a part of your family or isn't loved or doesn't have a nice comfy bed to sleep on. It just means that that dog's purpose is much different, right? So when I get a dog like Burley, and I made it very, very clear when I picked him up that I was getting a very particular dog for a very particular reason. This is a working dog. And Burley was brought into my life, as some of you already know, because there was unfortunately a young girl who got kidnapped probably 10 miles from my house at a campground that I used to frequent as a kid. And it scared the crap out of me because I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And so I remember tossing and turning one night, just absolutely terrified and sick to my stomach for the parents and just wrenching and hoping for the best. And I just remember, like, I want to get the most protective dog I possibly can think of for my kids. Now, again, let's go back to the pet and the working line. I have worked with a handful of working line Boerboels. These are dogs. So again, we have that spectrum. Let's just make it easier for you guys because not a lot of people are familiar with the Boerboel. Let's say you get a golden retriever. Now, there's two sides of the spectrum of a golden retriever. There is the field golden, which is built a little bit differently, looks a little bit different to the naked eye. You would have no idea that it's a working line golden or what we call a field golden. These dogs are high drive. They want to go fetch. They want to retrieve. And there's this end of the spectrum of that, right? And it comes in a lot of different waveforms. I've met field goldens that don't go in the home. They don't know what carpet feels like. They don't know what a bed feels like. They don't know what a bath feels like, and they don't care to. They are kept in a kennel. You go out in the morning, you let them out, or they're in an in-and-out kennel or a guillotine kennel. They go out, they go potty, they're fed their breakfast, and they go to work, or they wait for the next day to go to work. That's just how working dogs are. Now, for some people who own pets, that is very foreign to you. That is very, in some cases, some people may even look at it as mean or not fair or even cruel to some extents. And then the people who work with these dogs for a living, they have a completely different understanding and objective for this particular dog. And these dogs also are used to it, and they don't want to be inside. They don't want hugs. They don't want kisses. They don't want to cuddle. They don't want to be on the couch. They want to work. And if you try to take that square and put it in a round hole, a lot of times, maybe not with a field golden retriever, because the worst case scenario is they're just going to chew on things around your house. It's going to be really difficult for you to raise that dog, right? Because you have a working dog that you're trying to raise as a pet. So hopefully you guys are following along here as we're moving through this. And I have my oat milk matcha here that's getting cold, so I'm going to sip this. Cheers, everyone who's listening and watching. I appreciate everybody. This podcast is incredibly amazing to do. So hopefully that kind of paints a picture of the difference between a working dog and a pet dog. And we're going to get into the Burley thing in a moment. So understanding that, German Shepherd, same thing. You could have a working line German Shepherd, or you can have a pet line or a show line German Shepherd. A pet line or show line German Shepherd is not going to have a lot of drive, likely. They're not going to have a lot of energy, or they're not going to have a lot of motivation to go and work, right? But if you get a working line German Shepherd, they're going to be whiny, they're going to be vocal, they're going to be reactive sometimes if you don't outlet them, right? So there's a huge spectrum of dogs. And I never knew that there was a spectrum of the Boerboel up until recently. Again, that post was really eye-opening to me because all the Boerboels that I've worked with, all the Boerboel owners that I've worked with, and all the Boerboel people that I've worked with have made it very, 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 very clear that Boerboels are, and this is just, again, my subjective opinion because of my experience with them, are all the working line Boerboel. And so the working line Boerboel, just like we talked about with the golden retriever spectrum, is very similar. And again, I'm diving into this and learning more about the breed as we go. I already know a lot about the working line breed. I have one. I've trained multiple. I've done my research, obviously, with getting one of these dogs. I work closely with Burley, my Mastiff's breeder. I met mom. I met dad. I went on the site. I did my research, right? But let's just give you the spectrum. So there's the South African farm working line Boerboel, which is what I have. High caliber, redlining all the time, extremely suspicious, even nervy to a certain extent of seeing a trash can that's out of place, seeing a plastic bag that's out of place, like extremely, extremely nervy to new things into the environment. And that's what I have found with all the Boerboels that I've worked with. They can be reactive, they can be protective, but none of them have been man-eaters. They're scary, they're big, they will get in your face, they will bark at you, they will let you know that they're there, they will posture up, and these are 150 to 200-pound gorillas walking around, all muscle, right? So it is scary and it is terrifying, which is why I have worked with multiple of them and have seen that behavior, including mine. And so there's that side. And I always thought that that was the Boerboel. Well, I have seen and heard a bunch of different people, especially on that post on my Instagram, saying like, my Boerboel's a couch potato. My Boerboel is the sweetest. My Boerboel is this. Now, my Boerboel is really sweet. He loves his people. He's never bitten. He's never been aggressive. He's never shown signs of I would be nervous about him becoming aggressive. He can be reactive. He can be scary. He can bark. He's played with every dog he's formerly met, as long as they don't try to attack him for whatever reason. But my point is he is the other end of the spectrum. He is, both of his mom and his dad came from South Africa, working line dogs. His dad is pretty chill, but his mom is extremely spicy. And so that makes him that type of dog, right? And it wasn't until recently, again, that I have found that there's apparently a pet line of Boerboels that I had no idea about. And this isn't a Boerboel podcast. This is just in general. If you guys want to understand the differences between a working line and a pet line, most breeds have that. I would say that there's certain breeds that are exempt from that. I think a Border Collie would be a good exemption. They are pretty much 100% a working dog. Malinois have some sort of a spectrum. I have like my Dutch Shepherd, who's also a Malinois. She does have an off switch. She loves to work, but she'll also go lay on the couch. So she has a really good off switch and a good, medium there in the middle. So it's just important for people to understand that when I bring a dog into my home, or other professionals or people who are raising working dogs, these dogs are tools. Yes, we love them. Yes, we care about them. Yes, we want what's in their best interest, but understand that these dogs are specific tools. And if I get a dog, for an example, for a very particular reason, and they don't work out, we don't keep that dog. And I have a lot of friends who, really aren't on social media, but train dogs professionally and have since I was born. And they go through sometimes 4 or 5 dogs a year. And I think it's just important for dog owners to understand that there is a significant difference between getting a working dog for a particular job and getting a pet to hang out with you and your family on the couch and go for walks on the weekend. They're two separate things. And if you don't know the differences, we can be really confused about how dogs act, the decision-making of the handler, and what is really appropriate and okay and safe for these working dogs versus pets. And that's really important for people to really understand. I can't stress that enough. Because like I said, I've seen professional dog trainers go through multiple dogs a year because they don't fit what they're supposed to be doing. I used to see it when I was working police dogs. We would get a dog in, the dog wouldn't work. We'd either ship it back to get a new one. We would just adopt the dog out to a pet home because they weren't driving enough, whatever. And I think that that's like a big misconception. I remember I said one time on the podcast, I was talking to a friend and they said like, yeah, they just gave up their dog. And I think, I read in the comments a couple times, people were like, I can't believe that person gave away his dog. And I'm like, look, you got to understand that that dog is a working dog. And a lot of my friends who do sport work, right? Mondio ring, French ring, IG3, IGP3, whatever it's called now. These dogs are bought and starting to train for a very particular purpose. And if they don't have enough drive, or they're nervy, or they have a bad bite, or they got a gimp in their leg, those dogs are going back. No questions asked, because that dog isn't brought onto the property to be a pet. And that's a completely different thing. Like, I've had pets my whole life. Lakota was my first working dog. That was a dog that I knew I was going to get for a very particular thing, and I used her for almost a decade. Lakota was a working dog. She was my demo dog. I brought her to work every day when I was doing 6 or 7 sessions every day, Monday through Sunday, and I brought her to work, and she worked and worked and worked. Now, if at any point in time Lakota became aggressive or she became injured, she has such a good off switch that she could become a pet and kind of retire into my home, which is basically where she's at now. But there's a lot of dogs who don't have that off switch. And so anyway, getting down that rabbit hole and really explaining, I just wanted to explain to people there is a significant difference between a working dog and a pet dog. And so if you get a working dog and it doesn't work out, that's just normal, like part of the work that a lot of dog people go through. Like, it just doesn't work. Like, if we get a police dog and it doesn't work, they go back. No questions asked, because you're buying a tool. Like, if I went and I bought a car from somebody and a month later the engine died, that's a lemon. That car's going back. Oh, I missed that car. It's like, yeah, it's a little bit different. And I just see so many pet owners get really confused and offended and even upset and vocal about some of these situations that happened. And I made that video and I said that the Boerboel was an awful pet. And I meant it for the working line Boerboel, because it is the most challenging dog breed I have ever worked with, ever, like hands down. I honest to God, on my life, would much rather, I would have 3 Malinois over a Boerboel as far as the work that needs to be put in. 100% hands down, no questions asked, because Malinois are really motivated to work with their handlers, and they're motivated to work for you. And a dog like a Boerboel or a Cane Corso or some of the other guardian breeds, they really just want to be left alone and do what they want to do. They're not really obedient dogs by nature. They're kind of independent. They go out, they secure properties, they bark. They're really working dogs. And so let's say I had a farm and I got a livestock breed, like an Anatolian Shepherd or a Caucasian Shepherd or something like that. And even a Boerboel, like that's what they're bred for. Let's just use Burley. Let's say I got him and I had a farm and I lived in an area where there's coyotes or wolves, and I needed him to protect my livestock, my goats, my donkeys, my chickens, my cows, whatever I had. And every night a fox or a coyote went into the chicken coop or the duck's coop or whatever and just cleared it out every month, all my new chicks. Burley would be going back to the breeder. No, like zero questions asked. But I just think that a lot of pet owners, people who are listening and watching, they don't understand that. So for an example, again, like my friends who get these Mondio ring dogs, these dogs, for those of you who don't know, Mondio ring is like a French ring, or it's basically a competition for bite sports for dogs. And it's very competitive. People go to nationals, and I think not Olympics, maybe in the Olympics now, but it's like a real big thing, right? And people get these dogs, or let's just say fly ball or dock diving. If I got a dock diving dog and I was a professional dock diver handler, and I got a dog that didn't perform, the dog would go back. I didn't get this dog to be my buddy and hang out on the couch, and the dog doesn't want that. I got this dog to jump off the dock to pay my bills, and they can't do it, so I need another one. Here's the dog. Here's the receipt. Let's get another puppy on board to see if that's better. Guys, that happens every single day. Every day. And so I'm learning a lot with this dog, with Burley. And again, I'm having on a Boerboel expert, if you will, in the next couple weeks to really dive into Burley's genetics and how he's acting and why he's acting like that, and how often do dogs like this act like that and stuff. And so I just think it's important for people to understand I have a working line South African farm dog that was raised and have the genetics to find lions and baboons and other apex predators in the grass and surrounding areas of a farm. And so he is very suspicious. He's not a good pet. He's not a dog that we can just bring for a walk or bring downtown for ice cream, because he's going to make a big deal out of everything. And he's 165 pounds of all muscle, and he's terrifying. He wouldn't like it. Other people wouldn't like it. I wouldn't like it. My kids wouldn't like it. This is a homebody dog. That's why I got him. And, again, and I've talked about this before, if I got him And he didn't care that people walked into my house. He didn't care that landscapers walked into the backyard. He just like let them in. He'd be going back. Like he wouldn't. He's not what I want, right? I want a big protective dog, but it works both ways. If Burley ended up being too much, which he's pretty borderline right now, to be honest, but if Burley works too much and he's too overly protective and too aggressive, and those are conversations about like, okay, you got to meet in the middle. But I just find it interesting how many pet owners, just the general population of dog owners, don't understand that a dog like Burley or any other people that you follow that have these working line dogs, yes, we care about them. Yes, we love them. But at the end of the day, if they're not doing their job either properly or safely or doing their job in general, then we give those dogs back and we try another one. It's not you can't handle this dog or you don't like this dog or that's mean. It's no. I didn't get this dog for a pet. I didn't get this dog if the dog has, I wanted this dog to be a different color. I wanted this dog's breath to smell different. No, I got these dogs for a very particular reason. Just like when a police dog comes out of the kennel and if they don't know how to search for something, they get out of the kennel. They go to a pet home. Immediately they're given up on. They go for free. They usually typically just give them away to pet homes, or somebody who just wants a really active dog to go on hikes with because they don't fit the criteria of a working dog. And so, again, the pet dog, you get this dog to hang out with your family and not have any job in particular and just be a normal dog. Hang around the house, be a companion, all that good stuff. Love those dogs. I've had several in my whole life. I've had that. Now I have 2 working dogs. I have a Boerboel, who's a high-class farm working dog. And then I have Lakota, which is a good, happy medium. She has an off switch. Burley does not have an off switch. And we're constantly talking about that and working through it. And you guys have seen all my videos with them, and it's been a fun ride. And it's just really kind of learning everything about these types of dogs. But whenever I talk about, the Boerboel, it's interesting how much kickback I get from some people saying my Boerboel's super lazy. I'm like, oh, you have a pet Boerboel. I have a working Boerboel. None of that. I'm not comparing whether it's good or bad. I'm just saying we have 2 different dogs. They may look the same, but their genetics, their DNA, their brain, how they think, everything is different. So we're talking about 2 different animals here, really. And, I need to be more clear about that, which is why I'm, learning and doing things like this and giving people context. I do that all the time because it's a good learning experience for me. And it's also gives context to people who care about context, because it's important. So yeah, the pets are a different thing, whole different thing. And it's important for, I just think it's important because if somebody goes out there and gets a working dog and says, hey, Instagram, hey, YouTube, this is my working dog. And, this cute little Malinois puppy, and they're going to raise the dog for search and rescue or something, and the dog could care less. Don't be surprised or offended or sad or upset, or you shouldn't be anyway, at that person for trying to get a new one. That's a tool that they got that didn't work. It was a lemon. You get a new one. That's how working dogs work. People do it every single day. So I just kind of want to be that middleman, if you will, between the pet people and the working line people to understand the significant difference. And it was really brought to my attention from Instagram. I was like, do not get a Boerboel. Never get a Boerboel. And so many people were like, this is bull crap. My Boerboel's couch potato. I'm like, oh, okay. We have 2 different dogs, actually. I didn't realize that. I had no idea there was a pet line Boerboel. None. I didn't know that there was that. And now I do. So, I need to just keep getting better and learning more. So, you guys, thank you so much for listening and watching to this. If you're listening to this on Spotify or anybody else, just follow me. #1 dog podcast in the world. Thank you guys so much. And I'll talk to you on the next one. Bye-bye.